Hello and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Dave Hilbert, IPFW Sports Information Director. With me this week is IPFW Assistant Men's Basketball Coach Dick Dumanian. We're not sure exactly where Andy is. Could be watching film, could be plotting strategy, could be stuck in a snowbank. We just don't know, but we're happy to have Dick with us again this week. Now, Dick, before we look at the games coming up, I'd like to take a look at talk about the Bellarmine game last week.
Okay.
Last Thursday, team came in ranked 13th in the country, one of the leading teams in the conference, and we ended up with a 13-point win. What were some of the keys to the game?
Well, we thought we matched up really well with Bellarmine before the game. Their strengths are their two kids inside, two big kids, and then the point guard Ellington. And we thought we could do a really good job of, with our 4 or 5 post players, do a good job of muscling their big guys. Sure, Franz is 7 feet tall, but he only weighed 210 pounds. Just always laying a body on them, making them work the whole game for whatever they got position-wise, offensively and defensively, and just hopefully wearing them down. And we did a good job of that. And then Ellington's a good ball player, but he's not necessarily a good point guard. And so we wanted to pressure him as much as we could, trap him whenever we could, and make him pass the ball in situations where he didn't necessarily want to pass it. And I think we did a really good job in both areas.
Okay. Now you mentioned Tom Sherfrance. He's a big 7-foot kid.
Okay.
I think there's an NBA scout from the Pacers there looking at him. Now he still had a big game. Was 8 for 8 from the floor, 23 points, had a couple of blocks, about 8 or 9 rebounds. How did you go about trying to defend him? Were you going to let him play his game and stop the rest of the team, or did you not make any adjustment?
He's very difficult to stop. Like you said, he was 8 for 8, I believe, from the field. Is that right?
Yeah.
And he's very smart. He's not as talented as some of the other big men in the conference, but he's a lot smarter. He knows exactly what he can do, and he does those things very well, and he doesn't try to do anything else. And we knew he'd get his points, but like I said before, we wanted to make sure that he didn't go off for 40 on us, and we just wanted to do a good job of making him work for everything that he got, and I think we did that. He was in foul trouble. He had to sit out a lot in the first half. He got a little frustrated early in the second half with a couple calls and one non-call. And so I think we did a good job on him.
Okay. Now, the Kentucky State game Saturday, another team that came in ranked, I believe they were 4th in the region, and we were 5th. A tough 1-point loss, game that the lead seesawed several times. We were down at the half. What were some of your comments on that ball game?
Well, we were really disappointed in the outcome. They were, I don't know what they were ranked in the region. They were right there with us.
I believe they were 4th, just ahead of us.
But they were only 1 and 3 in the conference, where we were 4 and 1. And it was a game we really thought we should win, especially playing at home. We did a lot of things. We did some good things, but we did a lot of things below par. We were 9 for 19 from the free throw line. We shot better from 3-point range than we did the free throw line. So you can't really have that and expect to win. And we didn't execute real well. We didn't play a whole lot of defense. And then at the very end, we had 2 possessions where I don't think we got a shot on either possession. So, and we didn't execute at all, especially the last possession. So we got a shot, but wasn't what we were looking for.
Well, now we're going to take a look at the closing seconds of the game. This is just after a missed shot by Kentucky State. Ball goes out of bounds.
Right.
Back to Kentucky State now with just 13 seconds left. Now they're going to set up, going to call a timeout here and set up for their last shot. What did you guys talk about in huddle?
Well, we wanted to do a good job on Couch, the point guard, number 11. Pressure him. Don't give him anything too easy because he's their go-to guy. He's taking 21 shots a game. Number 40, Glover, was killing us to that point. I think he had 27 for the game.
27 points, 18.
So we wanted to do a good job on him, and then we wanted to keep him off the boards. So.
Okay. So I'm going to take a look at Kentucky State inbounding the ball here.
Do a good job. Make him throw it up to the top. Don't give him anything there. Sean does a really good job of coming over to help. Mark does a good job of coming up to pick up Sean's guy. And Little, 52, just it's a big shot.
Now, he had a great game. I didn't do a lot in the first half, but this is a guy who took up a lot of space. He's about, not real tall, maybe 6'7", 6'8", but just a huge guy. One of the biggest guys we played against all year. Were you guys, I mean, had you planned for him or just?
I think he's their 3rd leading scorer, and he's in the top 10 in the conference. So we knew he was pretty good, and he's got that nice little right-handed jump hook, and that we had talked about, and he's got a nice jump shot as you saw there. So yeah, we knew about him. I don't know what he finished up with. Not much over his average.
20.
So
okay, now here we are with our last shot.
And yeah, this is after 2 timeouts in a row, 2 consecutive timeouts. We didn't run the play at all how we wanted. Mark Allen did a good job of getting open. It was a good shot. He got fouled. I hadn't seen this copy of the tape till today. Our video is from the other side of the court. You couldn't tell from that side, but definitely gets fouled. But, you know, it should never have come to that. So just one of the breaks.
Sure. Do you think there's any letdown after beating Bellarmine, nationally ranked team, coming into Saturday's game?
I think so. I think that's just natural to let down. But if you're going to be conference champion and you know, do some of the things that we want to do, you got to overcome that. It shouldn't be a letdown. It should be a high that carries right through till Saturday night.
Okay. Now this game or this week, you've got 3 games coming up: 2 non-conference games, 1 tonight, 1 Thursday, and then you play Ashland. Now, do you know much about the teams you've got coming up? I know they're NAI teams that normally are not on our schedule.
Right.
You had a chance to look at any of them?
A little bit. I know St. Francis beat us last year, and so we'll be sure to remind the players of that several times during practice. Their point guard's a very good player. He pretty much does it all for them: scoring and handling the ball, breaking the press, that kind of stuff. They've got some good role players. One kid who can shoot the ball really well, and a post player who isn't too bad. So, you know, it's going to be one of those games. They execute really well. They're not as big as we are. They're probably not as talented as we are. They're not as athletic as we are. So, but they execute very well. So if we don't execute, it could be a repeat of last year.
Is it difficult to get the team up for a couple of games like this, especially knowing that they've got Ashland, the conference leader, coming up Saturday at home?
Yeah. You know, Andy and I don't really do a whole lot as far as trying to get the team up. You know, they're 21, 22 years old. They know how important this is, and if they can't get up on their own, you know, there's not a whole lot. You know, that rah-rah stuff and pregame speeches and all that. You know, they talk about that a lot in football, and I think, you know, as soon as, you know, the first play, that's all out the window, and so you know, hopefully they can get themselves ready for the game mentally, and you know, if we concentrate and execute, we shouldn't have any problems.
Sure. Okay, then Saturday night we've got Ashland. Now Ashland's ranked, I believe, 2nd in the region. They're leading the GOVC, always one of the top 10, 15 teams in the country.
Yes.
What do you know about Ashland?
That should be quite a game. We beat them here last year when they were ranked #1 in the nation. I think they were ranked #1 in the nation for 7 weeks. And they're doing a great job this year. They're in first place in the conference. They have 1 loss in the conference, and then there's, I believe, 5 teams, ourselves included, that have 2 losses. So this is a big game for us. If we lose, then we're 2 games behind them. So we definitely don't want to do that. They're a very good team. They lead the conference in scoring. They're averaging over 100 points a game. They have an excellent guard. Hill, for them, he does it all. He's in the top 5 in the conference in scoring, in assists, in steals.
They have a lot of guys back from last year?
Yes. They only lost 2 people, and they were both role players. One person started, and one person came off the bench.
Okay, and I know they have a new coach, but he was an assistant last year, so you don't expect to see much change in their overall scheme? No,
they're playing pretty much the same style of ball. They're going to press the whole game. You know, they're going to put pressure on the ball, on the inbounds pass. They're going to trap right away. And they give up a lot of easy baskets doing that. And but their whole philosophy is that they're going to get some too, get more than they give up. So what we have to do is do a good job of breaking the press, and then going down and getting a good shot instead of throwing it away. And we should be okay.
Okay.
They're a tough team.
All right. I'd like to spend the last few minutes talking about some of the players on the team that don't get a lot of publicity. One, Mark Allen. He had a great game against Kentucky State, 18 points, as a season high. His playing time's increased, and most of his other statistics, including scoring, have picked up. What is it that Mark contributes to the team, especially of late?
Well, I think the biggest thing with Mark is that he's had a stretch here now where he's been able to practice. He, being new, he's a junior college transfer for us, so this is his first year here, so he had to learn the system and find out what Andy and I wanted as far as, from him to do in the post and that kind of stuff. And he's just had all kinds of bad luck. He was sick for a while and missed practice. He was hurt for a while, missed some practice. He had some other problems, missed some practice. And so it was just like whenever he'd get started, something else would happen. And he'd miss some practices and fall behind, and his timing would, he'd lose a little bit of his timing and that kind of stuff. So he's had, since we've been back now, he's been here the whole time, since we got back December 26th, and he's starting to fit in. He's very talented. Where the other 4 post players are bangers and strength is their forte, Mark is quick. Very, very quick, deceivingly quick. He doesn't look that quick, but a little fake or a turnaround jump shot, and there's nobody there to defend him. And we're hoping now that Saturday night was just the beginning, and he can carry it over and be an important part of our post play.
Okay. Now it's 6'5". Is he going to see more time at guard or forward, or a little bit of both?
No, he's going to play. He plays post for us. Early in the year, that was something that we thought maybe he could play some wing for us too, but that was a little bit too much for him to learn. Both positions, because they're totally different the way we do it, the wing and the post. So we are going to, maybe we can do that for next year with everybody will be back in the post, get him some additional minutes on the perimeter, because he can certainly play out there. But for the rest of the season, yeah, he'd just be playing the post for us.
Okay. Now another player who's played very well of late is Andre Walton, 5'8" junior. He's a point guard. In GLVC games, since starting the league season, he's shooting almost 70% from the floor. He's among the league leaders in assists. He's got almost 2 assists per each turnover, which is an outstanding ratio.
Right.
How has he come along? And also, since starting the league season, he hasn't started, although his playing time has been about the same as it has been all year. He's been coming off the bench.
Right. I'm not sure. We alternated him there for a while. He started a bunch of games at the beginning of the season. I don't know if we just switched all the way over to Jeff Smithy, and he's been starting center, or if we alternated him there for a while. But they both do an excellent job for us. They play about an equal amount of minutes. They're both going about 20 minutes a game. And they both are very good players for us, but they do different things. Smithy's probably a better outside shooter than Andre is. Andre's a lot better penetrator than Jeff is. Andre gives us a little more quickness on defense. But the way we've been doing it lately with Jeff starting and Andre coming off the bench, with the way we press and everything like that, we like to do a good job. Smithy does a good job those first 3, 4, 5 minutes. Everybody's getting after it, and then we bring in Andre, who's even quicker. The other team might be wearing down. Excuse me, they're not as deep as we are. And then all of a sudden we bring in Andre, and they have to deal with that. So that's our philosophy.
Sure.
And we keep telling them it's not important who starts, it's who finishes. And
well, I know that's something most of the players have said, because we've used, I believe we've used 6 different starting lineups in 12 games, and I think the players are used to that role.
Yeah. Everybody likes to start, though, too.
Sure.
That's something, so. I think Andre understands what we're doing. I hope he does. He's doing a really good job. He was sick Saturday night. He had a problem with his stomach all weekend. We had 4 players that were sick. I don't know how much that affected us, but.
Sure.
So he wasn't up to par on Saturday, but he has been doing an excellent job.
Okay. Well, Dick, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show this week. We'll see if we can hunt Andy down sometime between now and next Tuesday. Maybe he'll make a guest appearance again.
Get him out of that.
Thanks for coming on the show, and good luck to the team this week.
Thanks.
And in a moment, we'll be back with IPFW women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelder.
What comes to your mind when you think about mathematics? Clowns, street sweepers, the Red Sox, robots, the weather, earthquakes, Disney World, pineapples, conventions, parking tickets, fishing? If these practical applications of contemporary mathematics didn't make your list, you should watch public television's math series for all practical purposes.
Bonjour. French in Action, opening a new era in language learning. A television course in 52 lessons centers around a wonderful romantic comedy filmed entirely on location in France. The story of Mireille, Robert, Marie-Laure, and the mysterious man in black will help you to learn, to understand, and to speak French. Watch French in Action.
Welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm here now with IPFW women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelder. Eileen, your team had a couple of more conference wins last week, including a huge one Thursday against Bellarmine, team that was 9th in the country. They were unbeaten till they came into our place. We ended up with an 82-80 win. We led 4-2 and then again 82-80. What were some of the keys to that win?
Well, first of all, I think our persistence. And the girls never gave up throughout the entire game. We were down as much as 16 points, and we felt toward the second half there we put our full court man-to-man pressure on them. It gave them some problems. If they have any weaknesses at all, it might be, you know, a little suspect on the ball handling, and we thought we'd take advantage of that and double team the basketball, and it certainly worked for us. We got some traveling violations and a few turnovers that brought us back into the game.
Okay. Now you're a little bit shorthanded. I think only 7 players played in the game. That's the fewest that have played all year. You had 2 players, Michelle Conley and Jamie LaRue, who were both injured. What kind of effect did that have on the team?
Well, of course, you know, we didn't have the depth that we're used to having. Jamie LaRue was always one to come off the bench to help us out if someone gets in foul trouble in guard play. And she always adds a little spark to our defense. She really gets after it, especially in our presses, and makes things work for us real well. So we did miss that. Michelle Conley last year against this same team did a very good job in defending their leading scorer, O'Bannon. And unfortunately, we weren't able to utilize her in this game. And I was looking forward to that, but she had a groin pull and wasn't able to play for us. So we're down to 10 on the roster, and we used 7 of those people to do whatever it took to win the ball game. And we were fortunate. Probably wouldn't have happened like that, but we didn't have anyone in foul trouble. The officials really let us play. There were very few fouls called, so we didn't have to be conservative in that respect.
Okay. Now we're going to take a look now at the last minute of the game, where we were mounting a big rally. And here we go. We're down 78-80 with just about a minute to play.
And we just wanted to take care of the basketball here and try to get the ball inside with O'Bannon out. We felt we could get the ball into Pam Edwards, which we did do. We're very patient and worked the offense, and you're going to see Pam hit the baseline jumper here and tie the ball game up.
Okay. Now, immediately after that, I believe there was a timeout. Bellarmine will go down, turn the ball over. IPFW will get the ball back. What kind of plays were you talking about in the huddle during those timeouts?
You know, Lisa Miller and Tina Manier certainly made me look like a good coach. What we had planned to do, 50% of what we wanted to do worked, and I guess it worked because we won the ball game. It was our intent we have a play where we kind of clear out on the baseline, and we give a handoff to Lisa Miller, and she just takes it to the hole. And with 20 seconds left, we felt that, you know, she should have the ball in her hands. And coming down court, they had a guard overplaying Lisa and just denying her the basketball throughout. And she took advantage of that and took a backdoor cut on her and got the pass from Tina and was able to score the layup for us and was wide open. We had our post people pull out wide, and there it is. And she did all she could to deny her the basketball, and Lisa just took advantage of the backdoor cut. And had Lisa not been open, you know, they're instructed them to pitch it to the post people on the baseline and go for the short jumper.
Okay. Now after that play, Bellarmine will take a timeout, throw the ball up to half court, call another timeout so they can inbound the ball from half court. I believe they had about 5 seconds left. Again, there was a timeout. Again, what did you tell the team to try to stop that last shot?
Well, on the full court, we were basically just trying to eat up the clock, and we wanted to let them have the ball inbounds below the free throw line and force them to dribble as much as possible. We felt, you know, the more they dribbled, the better. It's going to eat some seconds off the clock. So we put about a three-quarter court, full court, or three-quarter court man pressure on them, and we didn't want any fouls. We just wanted to, you know, let them bring the basketball up and just contain them a little bit. And then when they got to half court, they called the timeout with just 4 seconds remaining. And we basically did the same thing. We weren't sure who they'd go to for the last second shot.
Okay, now here they are inbounding the ball, about 5 seconds to play.
There's about
here.
4 or 5 seconds, right. We just want to deny the guards the ball, put a lot of good pressure on them, and just force them to take a longer shot, off-balance shot, fortunately, and it didn't go in. Sometimes those things can come back to haunt you.
Okay. Now then Saturday night came back, played Kentucky State, a team that's had a lot of problems, had a coach quit halfway through the year, had some players walk off the team, and ended up winning, I believe, 104-49. How does a team benefit in a game like that, and can a game like that cause problems, a game that's pretty much easy from the opening tip-off?
Well, I was a little bit concerned going into the game. You know, after a big win over Bellarmine, sometimes you might be a little complacent, and that's something I always talk to the team about. You know, we have a theme that we use quite often, and that is games are not won by yesterday's scores. And we take one game at a time, and each game is important to us. And I thought we got off to a slow start versus Kentucky State, but then after a while, you know, we got things going, and people were able to score. And one thing that you do benefit from is that everyone gets an opportunity to play. I also had the opportunity to look at a few things that we had been practicing on, and once we got a good solid lead, we could practice a few things in our offense and certain plays that we wanted to work out some kinks. And basically just giving everyone the opportunity to play, and that's always good.
Okay. Now this week you've got another game against IUPUI, a team we played earlier. It's going to be at their place. Have you had a chance to look at them again, or do you expect to see much different in that game than what we saw back in December?
A few things could be different. You know, they're shooting the ball quite well, especially from three-point range. And they're much improved. They had difficulty at first, I think, in gelling as a team. And I think they've come together and have really given some of our conference teams some competition. One thing I would like to add is that Tina Manier was ill the last time we played them. She played for about 2 minutes, scored 4 points, and she was out the remainder of the game. So I'm looking forward to having her back in our starting lineup against the same team.
Okay. Then Saturday night you're back in conference play against Ashland, a team that always is a tough team in the league. Have you had a chance to scout Ashland at all?
Yes, I have, just a little bit. Of course, we always get our videotapes we take a look at. They are not the three-point shooting team that we've had to defend. It seems that we always have these teams that have about 3 or 4 kids that shoot from three-point range. They don't have a particular player or two who takes a lot of three-point shots, so you know it might be a little bit different for us in defending that team. But I look for a very competitive game. You know, conference games always are. And once again, we take each game very seriously, one game at a time.
Okay. Well, I'd like to take a look at some of the injuries we've had. I know we mentioned earlier Michelle Conley missed the last weekend. Jamie LaRue, freshman, was also out. I mentioned some other players had been missed games due to illness or missed playing time due to illness. What's the current status of some of the players?
Well, we're on the road to recovery. We've had, you know, some nagging injuries, a lot of hand injuries for some reason or another, but Jamie LaRue was cleared yesterday by the team physician, and she had a very severe contusion to the left hand, and her body overreacted to it, and her nervous system kind of shut down in her hand. They were very concerned as far as her having total flexibility. So they wrapped it up in a way that it was stretched completely for about a week or so. And she does have mobility now, and she was able to come back to practice for the first time yesterday. So she'll be in uniform for us on Thursday and Saturday.
Okay, and Michelle?
Michelle Conley had a very bad groin pull, and both of these took place right after Southern Indiana game. And she's been out for a little over a week, and the doctors cleared her yesterday also, so she'll be able to play for us Thursday and Saturday.
Okay. Are any other players? How's the rest of the team doing?
Well, like I said, we've had some
injuries,
nagging
flu,
things. We've had a few colds, but not the flu like some people have. We've been fortunate in that area. Amy Hogan and Tina Manier have played the entire season with severe tendinitis in their shoulders, both in their right shoulders and their shooting arm, and they play with a lot of pain every game, every practice. And you may see them on the sideline during a game with an ice pack on their shoulder, or having a trainer, you know, stretch their shoulder or work out a kink. But they've played with a lot of pain, and I commend them for that. And that's something that you just have to deal with. You know, they get the treatment daily and do the exercises that the therapist has prescribed for them, but they just have to play with the pain. That's something they'll have throughout the season.
Sure. Okay. I'd like to do something we did back with Dick in the men's portion of the show, talk about some of the players that don't get a lot of publicity. I know one player has been playing well lately is Dawn Dressler. She's been rebounding real well lately, just increased her scoring. I think twice in the last 3 weeks she's had a game where she's had 10 rebounds. What has accounted for her recent good play?
Well, originally Dawn was a starter for us, and Amy Hogan kind of took over that role when we were looking for more of a perimeter threat to pull out the defenses, and Amy also was a good defensive player for us. And little by little, Dawn has worked herself back into more playing time, and I've been real pleased with her aggressiveness, her feistiness. She's really going after the boards, and I think she's found that is a way that she can contribute. And she also does a very good job of anticipating things defensively. You know, she's come up with quite a few steals, and I think she had quite a few this past weekend. And she's just a real heady player, and I've talked to her, and I've told her that we need her to be more of an offensive threat for us and to get after the boards. And she's kind of picked up a nickname of Rebound Queen, and she had 10 rebounds against Kentucky Wesleyan. She also had 10 rebounds this past weekend. And she's just working real hard. I'm very pleased with her play, and she's really starting to come on and when we need her to during conference play.
So you think she's adjusted to a role as a non-starter?
Definitely so.
Okay. Now another player is Ann Leakin. I know she doesn't get a lot of playing time, but again, she's shooting something like 75% from the floor, almost 90% from the foul line. Do you expect to see her role stay about the same, or maybe get a little more time?
That's hard to say at this point because we haven't played all the conference schools yet, and I'm becoming more and more familiar with them as we go as a new coach. Annie just does a good job of coming in the ball game when you need a little lift. She's able to sneak behind the defense different times and find an opening somewhere. She's probably the best one on our team at using the backdoor cut and get away from her defender and get that easy layup. And at the same time, you know, she can shoot from the perimeter. And I've instructed her, if she's wide open, especially against a zone, to go ahead and take the shot. And the percentage she's shooting, you know, you couldn't find a better shot. And she also hits the boards. And I don't know if you've ever noticed in the games during jump ball situations, she's usually all over the floor. And is the last one to give up on a jump ball situation. In fact, at the Southern Indiana game, she went down on the floor in a headlock with one of the Southern Indiana players and wouldn't let up, and of course, until the whistle sounded. But she works real hard in there and does a real good job for us coming off the bench.
Okay. Now, a third player is Kim Recker. I know Kim missed the first couple games of the season. She had a nasty-looking cast on her hand, was out for a while, but lately she's been scoring, rebounding well, and seeing progressively more time as the year has gone on. Is that something you expect to continue?
Definitely so. Yeah, Kim is coming along real strong, and I think as her confidence increases, and she's going to show us more and more. She was relatively young starting out, and I think she's matured a great deal over the last few months. Her hand did give her some trouble. She had what they thought was a stress fracture in her hand and some tendon damage, and so she was out for a while with that. But she's coming back real strong, and I look to her first off the bench in the post position if Shelly or Pam are in foul trouble. And she's kind of a silent scorer, a silent rebounder. You don't notice until you see the stats, and she's had 11 points against Southern Indiana and 13 points this past weekend. And also, you know, for the minute she's playing and the rebounds that she's getting, and she's always coming up with a few steals. And like I said, I think as her confidence, you know, escalates, her play is going to get better and better, and I look forward to using her more in conference play.
Is that early season hand injury, is that behind her, or is that still affecting her play in any way?
I think it's pretty much behind her. She's been cleared from the doctors, and she may have a little pain now and then, but she doesn't have to have it wrapped anymore. I'm a little concerned right now, and just noticing yesterday at practice, she's had some pain in her foot. And I hope that doesn't develop into anything. She has a past history of some stress fractures in the ankle and foot area, so I hope that it's just a muscle pull, and we'll find out more about that today.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for being on the show again this week, and good luck to the team this week. I'd like to remind fans, IPFW men's team will be in action in a single game Thursday night against Tri-State at 7:30 p.m. Then the men's and women's teams will return to a GLVC doubleheader at home against Ashland University, with the women's game beginning at 6 o'clock. Hi, I'm Dave Hilbert, IPFW Sports Information Director. Tune in every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. to IPFW Coach's Corner, where we'll visit with both the IPFW men's and women's basketball coaches. We'll show game highlights, talk about upcoming games, and we'll occasionally visit with players. Hello and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Dave Hilbert, IPFW Sports Information Director. And with me this week, new guest on the show, IPFW Assistant Men's Basketball Coach Dick Dumanian. Now Dick, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's your first appearance on the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, both your coaching, how you got into the profession, and how you ended up at IPFW.
Okay. Well, last 3 years I've been in Pennsylvania at 2 different colleges there. I was at Clarion University for 2 years, and then this past season I was at Mercyhurst College in Erie, Pennsylvania. And there, like I said, they're both Division II schools, and I was the assistant coach at both of those. Prior to that, I was out in San Diego, coached at a high school there for a couple of years, and was an assistant at the University of San Diego for a year. And I got my start with at the high school level, and it was something I always thought I wanted to do, and gave it a try, and decided this was it.
Okay. Now, how did you first hear about the opening at IPFW? Did you know anyone here, or did you just see it in the transactions?
No, I've known Andy Piazza and John Felsky for probably 5 years now, just through running into them at clinics and on the recruiting trails and at Final Fours and things like that. And so I didn't even know John was leaving. Andy called me and wanted to know if I'd be interested.
Okay, so what possessed you then to come here and be Andy Piazza's right-hand man?
Well, like I said, I've known him for a while, and so I knew Andy the person, and we got along really well. And then I knew about the program here, that they, the last couple of years had been very successful, and of course the conference is one of the best, if not the best, Division II conference in the country. So.
Mm-hmm. What kind
easy.
of adjustments have you had to make any adjustments both in your job here at IPFW with the style of play they play here and just moving to a new community?
Well, the community part's easy because I got here the day before practice started, so I know a couple places to eat lunch and a couple places to go after the game, and that's about it. I have a roommate, and he's amazed at the amount of time that I'm not home.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much just sleep there. So I haven't gotten to know Fort Wayne really well yet. Coaching-wise, it's every time you work for somebody else, there is some adjusting to do because everybody's different, and Andy is the head coach, so the way he wants things done and what he wants done, that's the way we go. But he's very flexible and asks for a lot of input and stuff like that too. So he's pretty easy to work for as far as that goes.
Now, are there any specific areas of the game that you have any expertise on, whether defense, shooting? Any specific area of the game?
I don't know if I'd call it expertise, but I think I pay a little bit more attention to the defensive side of it than the offensive side of it. And I think that comes from being an assistant coach. A lot of times the head coach is more worried about what we're doing on offense and if we're executing properly and who's doing a good job there. And so it's more up to the assistant to keep an eye on the defensive end of it and make sure we're getting things done there too.
Okay. Now, taking a look at this year's team, how does the team compare now to your expectations on going into that first game?
I think we're just about where we want to be. Things are starting to come together a little better. We still have a ways to go, but going into that first game, you never really know. When you practice against each other, there are days where you look great, and there's days where you look horrible. And those days where you look great, it's like, wow, are we playing that well, or are we just, are we that bad and we just look good because we're playing each other? So you never really know till you get in a game. And it was nice to have a nice game over Hanover like that to get a good start. So, but I think we're progressing pretty well. We still have a ways to go, like I said, but we're starting to execute better. And all through the year, we can't fault the effort of any of the players. That they give the effort at both ends, and so that's nice. So we just have to fine-tune it a little bit, and hopefully we'll be all set.
Sure. What are some of the reasons that this team is off to such a good start?
Well, I think the number one thing is that we're so deep, and that the kids, like what we said, work so hard. And that's a big advantage when you can have, we have 13 players and everybody plays. I think we have 10 or 11 players that are averaging double digits as far as minutes played per game. So we have a lot of different ways we can go, a lot of different lineups we can use. And it's a veteran squad. We don't have any freshmen. Jeff Smithy's a sophomore, but he started most games last year. So it's pretty much a veteran team, so they know what needs to be done, and when we ask them to do something, they know what we're asking, how to get it done. So.
What areas, if any, do you think the team needs to improve on as the year goes on?
Well, you can always, I think, coaches are perfectionists a little bit, and you can always improve on everything. The one thing that I think we really have been trying to stress the last couple weeks is shooting from the outside. We're one of the better shooting teams in the nation, I guess, shooting from outside, but we're just, as far as Andy and I are concerned, we're not shooting enough from the outside. And we think that would open up things more for the people we have inside. And so that's the kinds of things we've been stressing in practice, really. And then, like I said, just everything. We're always working on different things on defense and making a little adjustment here, a little adjustment there on the different offenses we run and things like that.
What about some of the intangibles on the team, like the team's just the team's overall attitude, their work effort? How does that compare with other teams you've been associated with, and is it up to the level you expect?
It's probably the closest bunch that I've ever been associated with. I think they all get along pretty well. They might not be best friends necessarily, but when we split up to do different things, it's not always the same two guys going to the same basket. They'll split up and do things with each other. When we go to pregame meals and things like that, they'll eat with different people and stuff like that. They get along really well. I think they can pretty much tell each other anything they want to, and the person might not want to hear that, but he respects what the person's saying.
Right. How important is that on the team?
I think it's very important, because they've always got the two of us, Andy and myself, barking at them about different things. So, it's when they have a teammate that's also doing it, then it's kind of like, well, maybe they're not all getting after me, because, if he respects the kid that's telling him the same thing the coaches are, then it's like, maybe the coaches aren't crazy. So I think it's very important.
Okay. I'd like to take a look at last week's games for a while. The Kentucky Wesleyan game was a team ranked, they're now 6th in the country. It was their first road game in the conference. Big crowd, big disparity in the number of foul shots. We ended up losing the game by 15, didn't shoot real well. Any comments you have on the game?
Well, it was our worst shooting game of the year, and I'm not really sure what attributed to that. But it was also, we had, I think we probably had the most turnovers we've had in any game. And we had, I believe, 17 at halftime. And you just can't do that on the road in the conference and have any chance of winning. So I think that really killed us.
Now, when a team comes out and is just cold from the floor, is there really anything you can do? Can you try new players that don't normally get a lot of action, see if you can find somebody with a hot hand, or is it just one of those things that happens?
I think it's just one of those things that happens. Especially on our team, we don't really have too many players that don't get a chance. So you keep putting people in and keep trying to run different things. But if it's not going in, it's not going in. Try to make up for it at the defensive end, maybe.
Now then, on Saturday, you guys played University of Southern Indiana, and it was a complete turnaround. Shot 60% from the floor again. Won a game against a team that's traditionally tough, not as strong this year. But and I understand that in between those games, the team had a closed-door meeting without the coaches. Did that have a big effect on the game?
I'm not really sure. I don't know what they talked about. But we played a lot better on Saturday, so if it had something to do with the team meeting on Friday night, maybe we should make that mandatory before every game. But they did do a lot better job. It was more a typical game for us on Saturday. And one of the things I talked about earlier is we want to shoot more from outside. And we did a little bit better job of that on Saturday. But that's part of the way our system works. The more shots we can take, and the more we can press, the more we can wear down the other team. It just kind of snowballs. And we did a lot better job of that on Saturday.
Okay. Now taking a look ahead, Thursday night you've got Bellarmine at home. A team they're again ranked in the top 20 in the country. A team that's always a tough team. They've got a big 7-footer in the middle, Tom Sherfranz, a guy that always seems to give everybody problems. How do you go about preparing for Bellarmine?
Well, they are a good team. I think they're ranked 13th in the nation. They're undefeated in the conference. This will be their first conference road game, though, so hopefully that'll help us out a little bit. They're a very good team, but we have a lot more depth than they do. They only go about 8 players deep, and I don't know how we prepare the same way. We don't really change a whole lot of things from team to team. We just try to tell our guys some of their tendencies individually, their individual players, and as team-wise what they might run on defense, what kinds of things to look for from them defensively, and then just go from there.
Okay, and what effect, if any, do you think being back home might have? And now that the students are all back in class, they're kind of more into a routine. You guys have been practicing at different times. The kids have been on break and away. Now they're kind of back in business now. Is that going to have an effect on the team? Or?
I think it'll help. I hope it helps. I think that's, just like you said, they're more into the routine of it. They know they have classes in the morning and then practice and then classes in the evening. being home for 5 games in a row will be very nice. For the next 2 weeks, we don't have to worry about going on the road. So it's on the road doesn't sound like much when you're gone Wednesday till Saturday night, but by Friday it seemed like we'd been gone for a week and a half already. So I think it's got to be really tough on the players. So being home will be nice.
Right. What are some of the advantages of being at home? I mean, other than the obvious things, you've got the fans cheering for you. You've got you didn't have to travel. You got to sleep in your own beds the night before. Just what are some of the advantages?
It's all those things. I think like you said, sleeping in your own bed. You eat regular meals where you're used to eating, the food you're used to eating, the time you're used to eating. You're familiar with the gym, all that kind of thing. I think all that has a bearing on it. It's a lot more relaxing to be at home. You don't have a lot of time to kill. Like when you're on the road, you have a lot of dead time where there's really not a whole lot to do. Or when you're at home, if you have free time, you have the library right there if you have to study, or you have things to do if classes aren't in yet. You have your friends or whatever.
Okay. Now after this weekend, we got a couple of non-conference games coming up. St. Francis, always a big local rival. Tri-State, a tough team from the area. How do you prepare for these games? And again, I know you don't make adjustments for particular teams, but is it more difficult to get the team up for a game like that?
I don't think so. With them being local teams, I think that helps a lot because it's the same guys that they see in the summer, same people they see out and about socially. So I think that makes it a little bit easier. It's a little easier to play a local team non-conference than it is somebody from Illinois or Pennsylvania or something like that.
So somebody you get a chance to see, so you at least know something
it's
about
kind of like and it's also kind of the bragging rights for the players. That's the way they're thinking. They got to see this kid in the summer and all year and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Well, Dick, thanks for coming on the show. Good luck to the team this weekend. And next week, like you said, you're starting a 5-game homestand on Thursday. And we'll be back in a minute with IPFW center Pat Murphy.
If you think mathematics is all in books you left behind in high school, it's time to think again. There's a new and vital mathematics in the world today, and it's at work in every area of our lives. It enables us to manage more effectively, with better routes, efficient schedules, and economical use of resources. It gives us control over the quality of our products and confidence in new ways to care for our children. It helps us understand the patterns and shapes of geometry as they occur in nature and in art. It makes possible every one of the amazingly diverse things that computers do. It helps us find fair ways to make group decisions and holds out hope for new ways to resolve conflict. Find out how the practical side of today's mathematics is affecting your life. Watch for All Practical Purposes.
Welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm here now with IPFW center Pat Murphy. Pat, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Just looking at the team now after your 10 games, how would you compare the team's performance now to what you expected going into the season?
Well, I kind of expected, to be all honest, a lot of the guys on their team are really confident about this year's team. We have, I think it's 4 seniors, 8 juniors, and a sophomore, or something to that extent. We really wanted to be undefeated at this time. I mean, but I think the 2 losses have really served us well. We've learned something from every loss. We've learned that we're not unbeatable. We've learned that every night we have to come out and play. And I think from that, we can go from there and really hope to win the conference.
Now, how would you, what are some of the factors you think accounts for the team's success this year?
Well, I think the experience, like I just mentioned, is one of the big ones. Also, Dick had mentioned about how well we get along together, and that helps. Also, just being around Coach's system. For a while, it seems when players come in, they really don't play as much. They're worried about where they should be and where to go, and Coach is always on their back. But from there, I think that's the biggest thing, and we're really playing well together and kind of coming together as a unit, and that's the biggest thing.
Now, how would you compare the team to last year's team?
A lot more experienced, and we learned a lot from it. I think last year we come up Thursday and we played Team Bellarmine, and last year we beat them when they were ranked #1 or #3 in the conference or in the country, I believe. And we think we can do the same thing. And I think that's one of the biggest things.
Okay. Now, what kind of have you had to make any adjustment this year now that you've been starting the last few games? Now I know on this team starting doesn't necessarily mean playing 30, 35 minutes a game, but has it been an adjustment for you, and do you prefer starting as opposed to coming in off the bench?
I kind of like to start just because I kind of get excited about the beginning of the game and get ready to go. But really in this team, everyone plays almost the same amount of minutes, and I'd be happy starting or coming off the bench as long as I got a chance to contribute and as long as I got a chance to go in and work hard.
Now you also have 3 other players on the team that play a similar style of basketball. Doug Ranke, John Honstrider, Sean Gibson, all about the same size, about the same experience. Does that help you knowing that those 3 guys are behind you, or does it put a little extra pressure on you, or maybe both?
Well, it's a little both, like you said. I think that in practice we push each other, you know, because we all know, I know that if I don't do the job, one of those guys is going to, because we're all right there in equal talent, equal ability. We push each other a lot in practice. I think that's what makes us better for the game night. But on game night, I know if I can't get it done, those guys are there to pick me up.
Okay. And what are some of your goals for the season, both individually and as a team?
Well, as a team, we want to win as much as possible. You know, we're talking about #1 winning conference, which I don't think IPFW has ever done. And personally, I want the ring. I want the little conference ring. Also, we really want to not only. Last year, our goal was to get to the tournament. This year, we not only want to get to the tournament, but we'd like to win it, or and do well in the tournament. I think those would be our team goals for everybody. And individually, I just want to be able to contribute. You know, whatever I can do, if it's just rebounding, or if it's scoring on a given night, or if it's cheering from the bench. I just want to be able to contribute on a good team.
Now, Thursday against Bellarmine, you have to go up against a 7-footer, Tom Sherfranz. How do you react to that?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Tom's one of the better players in the conference as far as the inside players. I may have a little bit more bulk than Tom does, and I like to be able to use that to my advantage. He's 7 foot, maybe about 200 pounds. I think I might be able to muscle him a little bit, and be able to take him out of his game. And my game adjusts pretty rapidly, so, and like I said, if I can't do the job, someone else is going to. So I really don't see him being a huge factor because we've always in the past been able to control him, and I think we'll be able to do that again Thursday.
Okay. Well, good luck to you, Pat.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a minute with senior guard Clarence Rich.
Color, space, line, form. These basic elements have been used by painters, sculptors, and architects to create artworks of timeless beauty and value. The Art of the Western World television course examines many of mankind's most enduring achievements and provides you with the key to the language of art.
All right, welcome back to the Coach's Corner. I'm here now with IPFW senior guard Clarence Rich. Clarence, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave.
Now, Clarence, your team's off to an 8-2 start. What would you say are some of the main reasons for that success?
The main reason, I think the guys come out and play hard each game. I think they mentally prepare for the games, and because they know that, for whatever reason, the coach will get on them and stuff, and most of the guys, most people in general don't like people, always on their back and stuff. So people tend to come out and do the right thing. So therefore, the coach really has nothing to say, really, except to remind people of, itty bitty things. I think we're working hard on defense. The guys, everybody plays together, and it seems like everybody's willing to make that extra pass to look for that one man, either whether the postman or somebody to shoot the three.
Okay. Now, how would you compare, being a senior, it's your second year in the team, how would you compare the team now to last year's team about the same time in the season, about halfway through?
About the same time. I think last year we lacked experience. As you know, we had like 5 junior college transfers, and it's like all 5 of us were trying to adapt to Coach Piazza's systems. With this year, we only had 2 new additions, and everybody else came from last year, so we pretty much knew what was going on and what we were supposed to be doing, just to be leaders or to be role players.
Okay. Now, being one of the seniors on the team, did any of the players look to you for leadership, either by example, on the court, off the court?
I think they do tend to look, for leadership, and I think I do provide leadership by example. Most guys know when they make a mistake, they don't need everybody saying something. Right. But from time to time, when a guy's on the free throw line, I come to him and say, let's make this free throw, let's get this one in there. But other than that, I just try to lead by example.
Sure. Okay. Now I don't want to jinx you, but I'm sure you're aware of the streak you've got going. Hit at least one three-pointer in I believe 28 straight games now. Does that ever enter your mind during the game?
I really don't
know
think
shooting the three is a natural part of your game anyway, so it's not like you're doing it to keep the streak going. But does that ever?
I really don't, think about the streak. I think it's fun when people come, to me and say, "Oh, the streak's still going." I think, that part's fun. But when I'm out there playing, I'm out there playing to win, and I'm not out there for selfish reasons, because you can't win by yourself. Sure. It takes 5 guys to win, and I am a team player, so that's what I'm out there for, to work hard and play for my team.
Okay. Now you are leading the team in steals, up among the league leaders in steals. Do you think that the defense is one of the strengths of your game, and if so, why?
Defense is the main strength of my game. Defense is, I think, one of the reasons Coach Piazza brought me here in the first place. I like to play defense. Defense has always been my theme, because I think offense starts a game, but defense wins it. And I just like to play defense. I play defense just to get the ball to somebody else for them to score. So scoring is really not really mean that much to me, but it does help, when you can play defense and score a little bit.
Sure. Okay, well, Clarence, good luck to you Thursday. Now you got a couple of tough conference games coming up. Good luck with the streak. And when we come back, we'll talk with IPFW head men's volleyball coach Arnie Ball.
What comes to your mind when you think about statistics? Polls, gambling, maybe baseball? Sure, but how about lightning, lobsters, music, chocolate cake, sex discrimination, heart attacks, potato chips, traffic, the ozone layer, Shakespeare, monkeys, dancing, drug testing? If some of these things didn't make your list, then you should be watching Public Television's new statistics series, Against All Odds.
Hi, welcome back to the Coach's Corner. Earlier this afternoon at the IPFW Media Luncheon, I had a chance to chat with IPFW head men's volleyball coach Arnie Ball as his team prepares for the 1992 season, and here's what he had to say. All right, Arnie, you're getting ready to start the 1992 season. Your first game is just a couple days away. Going into that game, how would you give just an overall assessment of the team right now?
I would say that we have some experience with a mixture of youth, and we have more depth at this point than we've probably ever experienced in the history of the program. I believe that we have the potential to be a pretty good volleyball team. Obviously, we haven't played yet, so I don't know how good we can be. I believe that this team has as much athletic ability as any group we've had. It's been a fun group so far at this point to work with, because they're really pushing one another for positions and opportunities to play. And we've always had that in the past, but the position pushing wasn't fairly realistic, and this year is realistic. We have 2 or 3 new kids who are going to make a major impact on the team before the year is out. And it should be an exciting group to watch, I believe.
Now, obviously you lost 2 of the greatest players you've had in the program, Fred Malcolm and Tony Looning. Who are some of the new faces that we're going to see coming in? Well, both the new players that might come in to replace them, and some of the players from the past that might try to pick up some of the slack.
Well, the new kids, Chad Blatchley, who is a junior college transfer from California, certainly brings in a real intensity that maybe we haven't had in the past, or similar to what Tony and Fred would have had, I guess. So he's going to bring some things to us that are going to be real positive, I think. He's an outside hitter. Craig Collins, who is a technique player, an opposite player, who is from Detroit, a 6'5" kid, who's a freshman athletically, has tremendous athletic ability, and I think he will be a real fine player once he learns how to play volleyball. Felipe Raylet, who is a 6'6" middle blocker freshman from Puerto Rico, also has outstanding credentials and athletic ability, and I think will make a real impact on our team. So those are 3 new kids that I think can have a pretty major impact right away. Of course, Tom Junkie's back, and Tom was all Mr. Everything in the MIVA Championships last year, and we're very pleased that he's back with us. Neil Day, who also is a real strong athletic person, middle blocker, a very emotional person. And, of course, with Norman back and Raul back, and Quentin Spiegel's playing very well right now for us, and obviously Loy. Well, I think all those kids had some real depth to our program and some experience because they've all been to the tournament and all have been through the MIVA qualifier and all those things.
Now, last year was your first appearance in the NCAA Final Four. Now, you look at most of the preseason volleyball publications are pretty much forecasting us to you to be in the top 10 again, probably to win the MIVA, make another trip. Does that put any extra pressure on you?
Yeah, it sure does, but it's pressure that I'm glad to have for a change. You know, we've never had that here, so obviously I'm pleased with that. I think part of what's helped alleviate some of that pressure, and when we talk about the NCAA tournament a lot, I mean, we want to go back, we want to compete for the national championship. We think we have an opportunity to be a contender, so we do talk about it a lot, but what's taken some of that pressure, I guess, if you will, away from this group is the fact that we have the depth and that everybody's pushing for some playing time. So they're not concentrating so much on the NCAA tournament, they're concentrating on the chance to get to play. And that really does alleviate some of that pressure, if indeed there is pressure, to repeat and go to the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how important is this first match? I know in basketball, for example, a lot of the teams, their preseason schedule, they play some weaker teams to try to work a few things out, but you guys jump right in. You play Ball State this week, then next week you go to Penn State. How important is this first match, both just on the floor and also the fact that it's Ball State?
Well, it's real important. You're right, we certainly don't have an easy pre-conference schedule. But I was reading an article by Denny Crum just today and talking about the wins and losses weren't necessarily everything. You got to play good competition to get better. And certainly that's what we're trying to do. The fact that this match determines the ASICS qualifier is the only thing that I don't like about this match. I don't mind playing Ball State right away, but the fact that there's so much riding on it is the thing that I really don't like. But we can't be avoided, so we'll go down and play. This weekend, obviously, is real important for us to see where we're at and what we need to work on. Next weekend at Penn State will be good for us because we'll have to travel about 8-10 hours to get there, play some good teams, and we'll see what kids can handle those kinds of travel arrangements and can handle that kind of pressure. And then, of course, we come right back home with USD and Penn State here at home. So, and hopefully we'll have a nice crowd, and that will be another experience for the kids. So all 3 of these weekends offer something different for us to gauge exactly where we're at and who indeed can play under these kind of conditions and who can't.
And how would you rate the schedule overall? I know you talked about the first couple weeks, and it's off a pretty brutal start. How would you rate the schedule overall, especially compared to previous year's schedules?
I think the schedule is fairly similar to last year's. We picked up Irvine out here in our spring fling, so that's an additional strong California team that we've not played in the past. Our trip out there is very similar to what we did last year with USC and Loyola and Santa Barbara. And we got one more, and I forgot who it was. But anyhow, the schedule is real similar. The nice part about our schedule this year is that almost half of our matches are at home. And I've worked real hard at trying to schedule teams here at home, and especially really good quality teams that our fans can see good volleyball, and that our kids can get into playing here at home against good competition.
Now, you mentioned earlier if you beat Ball State this weekend, you go to the ASICS tournament in San Diego where you'll play some of the top-ranked teams, most of them from California. You've got quite a few of the California schools at home. You also make the spring trip. How important is it both in terms of improving your team and in terms of national ranking and just respect to play those teams?
It's the most important thing, I believe. If we don't play those teams and can compete with those teams, nobody is going to pay attention to you. I mean, Ball State's a real quality program. Ohio State's a quality program. Obviously, we think we are. Penn State's a quality program, but none of us ever won the NCAA championship. And that's still the measure, the gauge that everybody measures you by. So you've got to go play those teams, and fortunately for us, we're able to bring them here and compete at a real high level with those teams. And also, that's the only way we're ever going to get to really have a realistic opportunity to win the NCAA tournament, because you have to beat one of those guys to win the thing. And so you got to play them so that you know indeed what you're competing up against.
And who do you look at this year as being some of the top teams, in not just in our region, the Midwest, but just in the country?
Well, it appears that Penn State and George Mason will be the 2 strong teams out east. Out west, Long Beach has all their players back except the one starting middle, so they're going to be very good. Pepperdine, I understand, is going to be very, very good. USC lost a lot of players, but they've also reloaded and are going to be also a real fine team. But I think those three teams will really be the stronger three teams out west.
Okay. Well, thanks, Arnie, and good luck to you on Saturday.
Thanks, Dave.
I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in this week, and I'd like to take a minute to remind people that IPFW men's and women's basketball teams will be in action in a doubleheader starting at 6 o'clock Thursday night when the Mastodons take on Bellarmine College. IPFW men's and women's teams will then return to action at home Saturday night in a doubleheader against Kentucky State University, again beginning at 6 o'clock. Both games are GLVC doubleheaders. Hello and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Dave Hilbert, IPFW Sports Information Director. With me now is IPFW head men's basketball coach Andy Piazza. Andy, your team enjoyed another great week. Moved into a first place tie in the GLVC with a win over Ashland. Just started the week with a couple of non-conference wins, defeating St. Francis on Tuesday and Tri-State on Thursday. Now, the St. Francis game, pretty easy win for the team.
Well, it was a situation where we came off a very emotional loss to Kentucky State on Saturday. We lost by 1 at the buzzer. Didn't play very well. We had 5 kids sick with the flu on that last Saturday against Kentucky State, and then again complicated that by shooting poorly from the free throw line. And Kentucky State played very well. They shot very well. It was a big road win for them. So I think the kids were emotionally hurting a little bit from the Kentucky State game, compounded with the fact that now we're playing St. Francis on Tuesday, so we have Sunday we have to give them the day off because of the NCAA regulations this year, but we usually do anyway. In years past, we always gave them Sunday off, and then so we had one day to get ready for St. Francis on Monday, and then we more or less were just trying to get the kids back emotionally, mentally from the Saturday loss. But again, most of our kids are back from last year's team, and they remember going to St. Francis last year and losing by 2 points, I think we did, at their place last year. In fact, that was the first time St. Francis has beaten any team that I've coached here in the 5 years. And kids played very hard the first half, and a couple of their better players didn't play very well. Norris and Land had tough times shooting. They played hard, but their shots weren't falling. And consequently, we had them down 18, I think, at half, or 20, something like that. In the second half, we played very hard again the first 5 minutes, and it seemed like the game was over with at that point. But the kids did not let down. They played hard the whole time. The final score, I think we won by 40 points or 41 points, something like that. It's not a true indication of how good St. Francis is. I don't think they played particularly well. They didn't shoot very well. Then we had one day to get ready for Tri-State, and last year at Tri-State, we were down 12 at half. We were down 3 with 3 minutes to go. We won by 6, but we took the lead with a minute and a half to go, I think, in the game. So Tri-State always plays us tough. It's a big game for them. They're only 35 miles down the road. They're an NAIA program. You have to remember NAIA programs, if they beat us, they get bonus points in their conference, in their district. If they lose to us, there isn't anything that happens to them. It is not a blemish on their record. So they played us very well. We had a 10-point lead, 5-point lead most of the game. I think we ended up by winning by 11. Again, Sean Gibson played very well. He just took it upon himself in the second half of Tri-State and asserted himself very well down the stretch, kind of took over inside. and we got Sing Peel, their best player, in foul trouble, and then he eventually fouled out. So it was a situation where you try to get the kids not to look past Tri-State to Ashland. Obviously, 48 hours later, we got the #1 team in our conference coming in, a top 20 team in the nation. And you want to make sure you play well enough to win and well enough so that the kids understand some things. And yet, you know in the back of your mind also, the next day you have to get ready for Ashland. So it's a catch-22, really. So we're fortunate to win and fortunate that our kids played well enough.
You think the team came out a little flat on Thursday? Maybe looking forward
Well,
to the Ashland game?
I don't know if it's flat or it's end of January, or the fact is we have 2 non-conference games all of a sudden wedged into our conference schedule. I think it's a combination of things like that. I'm not saying that at the end of January the kids shouldn't be focused. I'm not saying that they shouldn't respect the opponents we're playing that night. But when you have just lost to Kentucky State, you want so bad to get that next conference win. And knowing the fact that the team coming in is #1 in the conference, and if you beat them, you're tied with them for #1, I don't think you focus as much on Tuesday and Thursday games. And then you look at the Tuesday and Thursday opponents, very good teams, very good coaches, but they don't have 12-2 records. They're not ranked in top 10. So I don't know if it's lack of attention right then. You have to remember we're still dealing with amateur athletes, but the fact is we're deep enough and we have enough kids that contribute that if the kids that are out there are not playing hard, we can go with other people. It doesn't help having non-conference games in the middle of your conference schedule, but it's just you can't help it with the scheduling these days.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then Saturday night, you guys came out, played Ashland. That's a team that plays a similar style. A lot of usually high-scoring offense, kind of run-and-gun type team. How did you prepare for that team?
Well, they came in averaging 100 points a game. Ashland was #1 in our conference, top 20 in the nation. Preseason picked far and away by the coaches in the conference to win the conference championship. Last year they went to the Elite 8. I think they won 26 games last year. They were ranked #1 in the nation for like 7 weeks last year. But we knew we were one of the teams that beat them down the stretch last year with our young team, and all those kids were back. And Ashland, in my 5 years, has never beaten us here at our place. And we knew their personnel very well. We had 1 day to prepare for them. But like you say, our styles are similar. We think that their press is very good in the backcourt, but once you get it through their initial traps, they're not very good. And we try to convince the kids that once we get it over their initial traps towards midcourt, if we just keep attacking, we'll be in good shape. And that's what happened. Their press they either force a turnover or they get scored on, which is, we're not like that. If we don't force a turnover, we don't give up a layup. Ours is a bend but don't break kind of press. Theirs is all out. They're going all out for the steal or all out to make you turn it over. And if not, we have a numbers game all the time. Numbers in that situation, we have more offensive players attacking the basket than they have defensive players. Consequently, if we make good decisions and shoot the ball okay, we're in good shape. And that's what happened. We just killed their press. And even when they cut it down to 3 points there in the second half, we came back and scored 7 straight points, and all of a sudden it's a 10-point game again. And we held them to 92, and we got 106, which is a lot of points for us to score against a team like that. But again, we had a lot of people just step forward and play so well. And, you know, obviously Vaughn got 30, and Sean Gibson had 27 and 17 boards, something like that. The fact is, you know, we had the players put up big numbers like that, but we had everybody contributing. Mark Allen took 2 charges, blocked 2 or 3 shots off the bench. We called him our new Rodman now. And we had Doug Ranke played very well, had a dunk, and scored at the end of the break and the end of the press offense. I mean, Kevin Schenk didn't score from the floor, but he's the one diving on the floor for loose balls. Clarence Rich had like 6 rebounds. I think he was the second leading rebounder on our team at 6 foot, playing, you know, small forward for us. We just had so many people contributing that they knew how important the game was. So it's not hard to motivate kids for that in a game like that situation. And if we play hard, you know, we have a chance to win every game, regardless of how well we shoot from the floor.
Okay. I know you mentioned Sean Gibson, and we're gonna get a look at Sean in a minute. He was Player of the Week this week for the 73 points in 3 games. The number that jumped out at you, I think he shot almost 80% from the floor in those 3 games. Now, when you take a look at Sean, you know, he's not the biggest guy on the floor. He's not the strongest or the quickest guy on the floor. What is it about him that makes him such a solid player, both offensively and defensively?
Well, I'm not comparing him to Larry Bird, but he has some qualities that Larry Bird has in the fact that he always works hard. He's a tremendous competitor, and he's got a little bit of that air of cockiness about him where he knows he's pretty good, but he also knows that he has to work very hard to be good. And he's a very, very competitive person. You know, I played golf with him last summer at Canterbury Green Golf Course, and he'll do anything to try to beat me in golf. He's not as good a golfer as I am, but he'll do anything he can. And at the turn after 9 holes, he was beating me, only because he wanted to beat me so bad, which made him that much better of a player. But the thing about Sean is just he's such a hard worker. He's very intelligent on the court. He knows what's going on out there. He's been inbounding our ball against the press since he's been a freshman. He's been starting since a freshman. Obviously, a 3-year starter. He's got a lot of experience like that, but he's just a competitor. Now's the time of the year where he just gets so much better. I was a little disappointed in Sean earlier in the year because he didn't play with the intensity that he did in February. But then again, he's that kind of kid where, I'm not saying he goes through the motions, but all of a sudden when the big games are here, he comes to play, he raises his whole game another level. And a lot of kids can't do that. Yet Sean's the one that always seems to do that. At halftime of Ashland, we had them down 6. Ashland was confused. We were sticking it to him pretty good. He had 17 points and 10 rebounds at halftime. He completely dominated Ashland in the first half, set the tone. So you can't say enough about a kid like that. Just a tremendous competitor and a coach's dream, really, on the court.
Have you seen a lot of maturing in him over the 3 years that he's been here?
Yes, Sean's one of our captains this year, Sean and Clarence Rich. Provides a lot of leadership. Of course, when he's a freshman playing a lot, sometimes you go through a stage where you think you're better than you are. And then his sophomore year, he was all conference. He played very well at times, and other times it was hard to coach him because he thought he knew the game and he didn't need coaching. But this year, I tell you what, he's more responsive to things that we're trying to teach him and situations during the game. He doesn't get excited if I bark at him, or he doesn't, if I tell him things that he's doing wrong, he just nods his head and goes out and tries to correct those things. So yeah, he doesn't take things personally that I say anymore. He understands that what I say is basketball-wise. He actually hears what I'm saying instead of just listen to how I'm saying it. So yeah, I think that's a great sign of maturity, especially when you talk about student athletes.
Okay. Now to take a look at the week ahead, you've got a couple of tough games. Northern Kentucky, a team that's only a game behind IPFW in the standings, kind of a logjam up at the top of the standings. Team that's won some big games, played some overtime games. And then Indianapolis, a team only 2-5 in the league, but they lost to Kentucky Wesleyan at Wesleyan by, I believe, 1 point. They've also won some big games.
Right. University of Indianapolis is on Saturday. They did lose. It was at home, though, but they lost by 1 to Kentucky Wesleyan when Kentucky Wesleyan was inbounding the ball and they caught a foul on an Indy player. So the Wesleyan player shot a one-on-one situation with 1 second to go. So they should have beaten Wesleyan at home. Then again, Indianapolis beat Kentucky State at Kentucky State last week by 18. Kentucky State's the team that beat us by 1 here if we're talking about common opponents. We lost to Kentucky Wesleyan by 15 at their place. Northern Kentucky turns around and beats Kentucky Wesleyan in overtime last week at Northern Kentucky. So we're talking about both teams. Now we're at Northern Kentucky Thursday, at University of Indianapolis Saturday. Both of them have beaten conference opponents who have beaten us. So that should be all the wake-up call we need to tell the kids that if we take care of business this week, we're in great shape going into the second half of the season. And if we take any of these opponents lightly, you're going to get beat. It doesn't help also that we have 13 games left. We're first in the conference tie with Ashland. We're the #1 in winning percentage in the region now. But of our last 13 games, only 4 of them at home. We have 9 on the road. So we have to be mentally there all the time or we're not going to survive this next 6 weeks.
Okay. Wendy, good luck on the road this week. And we'll be back in a minute with a sports break from IPFW student Alan Bangs.
Here's the Coach's Corner Sports Break. I'm Alan Bangs. The IPFW women's basketball team is on quite a run with a winning streak of 7 games. Last week, the Lady Dons defeated host IUPU Indianapolis 92-79 behind a record-setting performance by Lisa Miller. Miller set a new IPFW record by scoring 40 points in the game. More on Miller in a moment. Last Saturday, IPFW defeated Great Lakes Valley Conference rival Ashland 91-72. Pam Edwards set a career mark with 31 points. Not only did Lisa Miller break her old record of 38 points scored in a game last Thursday against IUPU Indianapolis, but she set another milestone by becoming the 38th player in NCAA Division II ball to score 2,000 points in a career. She is currently the leading active career scorer with 2,040 points. On Thursday, IPFW takes to the road to take on Northern Kentucky University. Saturday, they'll be at Indianapolis. Coach Andy Piazza's men's basketball team nailed down a share of first place in the GLVC with a sizzling victory over Ashland University. Sean Gibson led the team with a season-high 27 points in the 106-92 victory. Earlier in the week, the Dons defeated St. Francis College and Tri-State University. With a GLVC record of 5-2, the Dons are tied with Ashland University for first place in the conference. On Thursday, the Dons are at Northern Kentucky. Saturday, they're at Indianapolis. This weekend, the IPFW Multi-Purpose Building is the place to be for volleyball action. Arnie Ball's highly regarded Volley Dons host 3 national volleyball powerhouses in the Fort Wayne National Bank Pepsi Invitational. Ohio State takes on USC at 6 p.m. on Friday night to get things underway. IPFW then meets Penn State to top the evening off. On Saturday, the consolation match starts at 6 with the championship at 8:30. IPFW enters the tournament with a record of 4-2. For Coach's Corner, I'm Alan Bangs. Now back to Dave for more interviews with the coaches.
Hi, welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm here now with IPFW head women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelter. Eileen, your team won a couple more games this week, another conference win, staying in second place. You started out with a non-conference game against IUPUI, 13-point win game, a team we played earlier in the year and won by 40. What happened in that game?
Oh, a lot of different things factored in. First of all, it was a road trip. We always played better on our home floor. I really thought we'd play a better game. Our first match with them, Tina Manier was out with the flu, and she was able to play for us. And we had some girls with some nagging colds and had some trouble breathing out there. And I'm not trying to find any kind of excuse of any sort, but it was just different playing on their floor. And we ran into a little bad weather traveling down there and got a little bit behind schedule. And our intensity level just wasn't there to start out. In the second half, we came out and did a little better job. Fortunately, we shot very well from the field and from the free throw line. And that was the night Lisa had 40 points to get her 2,000 career points. So, you know, we ended up with a victory, and when you're on the road like that, that's what we tell ourselves. You know, we came back with a W, and it was a fairly good score.
Now, is it difficult getting the team up for a game like that, a non-conference game, when they know they've got another league game coming up at home just 2 nights later?
I think it was somewhat difficult to get them motivated to play a team that they did, you know, defeat by 40 points just a month earlier. And, you know, they can't help but be thinking in their minds, you know, that they beat them by such a large margin, and, you know, this game isn't going to be a contest perhaps. But as a coach, you're always trying to, you know, make every team look like a tough team, you know, a team that we need to really take care of business and go out there. On any given night, anything can happen, and we need to keep things in perspective. And each game we take one at a time, and they're just as important as any other game, whether it be conference or non-conference.
I know you mentioned Lisa Miller had 40 points, which is a new school record. That was the night that she was gunning for her 2,000th career point. The team made any extra effort to get her the ball?
Not necessarily. We kind of talked about that a little bit, and we told Lisa not to concern herself with it and just let it happen naturally. They held her to 20 points, I believe, the first time we played them. And for her to get 40 was quite a surprise, but she got 16 of those points at the free throw line. She was 16 of 17. Which I think was a new record for her. So we didn't put any pressure on her. We just went out there and played the game, and if it happened, it happened. And she really would have preferred to have it happen at home. We toyed with the idea of perhaps not playing her that night and saving her for the Ashland game so she could have gotten her 2,000 points in front of her home fans. But it worked out for the best, and we're real pleased with her performance.
Okay. Then Saturday night, you came home. I understand you were lucky to make it home from IUPUI. And some fierce weather coming back.
Yeah, that was a real difficult trip back. The snow was really blowing and thick, and the interstate was down to one lane. And when you have those semi-trucks out there following you real close and passing you and so forth, it was a difficult trip. We had to take our time in a lot of different areas. It had kind of like spots of really bad snow, and then it would lighten up a little bit. But it took us a while to get back, and we're just very fortunate that we did get back safely.
Okay. Then Saturday night, you came home to play Ashland, a team that was about 6th, 7th place in the league, had a sub-500 record. The game started out a little closer than we might have expected.
Yeah, I think we left a little bit of our lack of intensity with us after the IPUI game. We didn't get out and get after the boards especially. That's something we talked about at halftime. And I was a little hot under the collar at halftime, to say the least. And we talked about the fact that they do such a good job of getting putbacks. And I think the last bucket before the half was indicative of that. You know, we put on a three-quarter court man-to-man press just to slow them up, eat up the 9 seconds left on the clock. They put up a shot and miss. We just need to secure the rebound, and we let their center come down and get a putback at the buzzer. And we could have gone in the locker room with an 11-point lead. Instead, we had just a 9-point lead. And you know, that was just a lack of effort and desire to get the box out and secure the rebound. So we talked about that at halftime.
So what happened then in the second half? You came out and then pretty much blew them out of the gym in the second half.
Well, we got our intensity level up a little bit. Just a matter of desire as far as I see it. You know, they put a little zone on us the first half, and I like it when teams go zone on us because I really like our zone offenses, and we generally execute them very well. But on that particular night, for some reason, we kind of lost our heads with our zone offense and did not execute as well as we could have. And then they went back to man-to-man on us in the second half, and that's when we started to take the lead. We took the press off, and that may have helped us a little bit, too, as far as endurance goes. And it puts us in a better rebounding position when we're not pressing.
Mm-hmm. Now in that game, Pam Edwards had a great game. She had 31 points, I think 18 rebounds, which is both were career highs for Pam. She's taken over the team rebounding lead. How has she improved her game this second half of the year?
Well, we've worked a great deal on her game, trying to keep the ball, you know, up high. She has a tendency to bring the ball low when people used to strip her early on. Her traveling calls that she used to get a lot early in the season. We've worked on establishing her pivot foot, and she wants to drive to the basket. She's such a good shooter for us. She has that 8-foot baseline shot down to a science. And if she gets the ball there, she's going to turn around and fade, and no matter who's guarding her, how tall they may be, she has hit that shot 9 times out of 10. And so she's improved in her shooting. She's improved in her desire and her positioning for the rebounds. You know, Lisa at 5'9" is the best example I can give you as far as positioning for rebounding, but Pam has really come a long way with that. Her free throw percentage has improved a great deal, and she's strong, and I think it was just a matter of, you know, utilizing that strength and to reach her potential. And her game is improving, and we have some things that we're still working on, hoping to work on her seals and posting up inside a little bit more. At 5'11", you know, she's a little bit limited, but with her body size and strength, you know, she's able to get some things done for us inside. And she just puts a great deal of effort into everything she does.
How would you compare her play to some of the other post players you've seen this year in the league?
Well, one thing about Pam is that she's very agile, and I think she has very good speed for a 5'11" player, and she's able to get up and down court. You know, her endurance is very good. I play her a lot of minutes, and you know, Kim Recker will come in off the bench to relieve her, and sometimes share time with Shelly, Kim, and Pam. All three of them kind of rotate. But for her to play that many minutes against some of these other post players, you know, she does a real good job with that, and she never seems to tire. You know, and she always has that intensity to get out there, and she always puts, you know, the challenge before her to try to defend their post player and hold them down below their average. And she just takes a lot of pride. And I guess the best way to sum it up is she just loves the game, and she has a lot of desire, and she really works on every part of her game.
Okay. Now another player that's played well of late is Shelly Sands. When you're senior, one of your 3 seniors, she's had double figures in her last 4 games. She's moved into the top 10 in the league in field goal percentage, which I know you said was one of her goals. How have you seen her game progress as the season has gone along?
Well, scoring, we talked about that a long time ago. I told Shelly that I needed to have her in double figures for us. And starting out, I think she was averaging about 6 points a game. Mm-hmm. And now with conference play, you know, she's moved into double figures for us. She had 18 points against IUPUI, and her field goal percentage has been incredible. You know, she has a real nice soft jump shot. You know, being 5'9", she's not able to post up and get a lot of seals inside, but she always seems to be in the right place at the right time. One thing we have talked to her about, and I hope she's listening right now, she needs to work on her rebounds. We need to get more boards out of her, and something I really stress with the entire team is, you know, the offensive end. We need to hit the boards on the offensive end better than we do. And I think, you know, we're shooting the ball so well that everyone, you know, thinks it's going to go in, and they don't work real hard to get position for the missed shot. And that's something that I need Shelly to do for us. You know, if Pam's shooting from one side, I need Shelly on the other side getting the backside rebound and putting it in for us. And that's where she's going to get some of her points. Defensively, she just works her tail off. You know, she makes things happen for us when we're pressing, whether it be man-to-man or zone. With her long arms, you know, she's able to get a lot of deflections for us, and she has a great deal of intensity on defense.
Now, before the season started, I know you put together kind of a chart had various goals. Some of the goals were statistical goals, other were more intangible type goals. How would you rate the team's performance in some of those different categories?
Well, after every game, we go through that goal chart. We fill out a chart for each game. They keep it in their notebooks. And we have done fairly well in most of the areas, particularly free throw percentage, field goal percentage, rebound margin. As far as scoring margin, excuse me, we like to be on a plus 13 side with that, and with a lot of teams we've been able to do that. We try to hold our opponents at 65 points or less, and that's something that we have not done as well as I would like us to do. We're scoring a lot of points, so I guess maybe you could say it's one of those situations where you score a lot of points and don't play as good a defense. I don't really want to say that because I pride ourselves in our defense, but we really haven't done as well in that area. Turnover-wise, we're just a few turnovers over where we want to be. As far as the steal category, we'd like to be getting a few more steals, and so it depends on the game, and a lot of times that we're able to meet our goals. And some other things we talked about, you know, we'd like to do real well in the conference. We certainly would like to win the conference, and we're going to put forth as much effort as we can. And you know, even though we're second place right now, we're far from finishing the conference play, and we have 2 more teams to play before we finish the first round, and then we have to play everybody again. So anything could happen, but that is our goal. And if it so should work out that we could win the conference, and then as a result we could be in the NC2A tournament.
Okay. I know you mentioned you have 2 more teams left to play, and those are the games that you're going to play this weekend. You have to go down to Northern Kentucky on Thursday and then Indianapolis on Saturday. Now, Northern Kentucky is a defending league champ. They got off to a slow start, but now they've been on a roll. I think they're up to 8-5. Indianapolis is a team, I believe they beat Bellarmine. They've won some big games, one of the surprise teams in the league. Have you been able to get a look at either of those teams?
Yes, I have. We've been able to scout both of them, and we also have quite a bit of videotape on them. They're 2 very, very important games. Northern Kentucky just has 2 losses in the conference, and Indianapolis has 3. And you know, Northern Kentucky is just very well coached. Nancy Winslow's been there a long time, and a very well disciplined team. And of course, it's harder to play, you know, on the road. But they're a fairly balanced team. They have some size. The Middleton girl at 6'1", and some good guard play, and Levens at point for them. They also have a young lady by the name of McClellan who's a very good 3-point shooter for them. So they're very well balanced, and they have some quickness. Indianapolis is #1 in the nation in 3-point shooting. They have a young lady, last name is Graham, and she's just doing an incredible job from the 3-point range. And so we know that we're going to have to get after her, and then to go along with it, they have 2 very agile post players who are going to help their game. So we're looking for some very good competition in both games.
Okay. I'd like to remind fans that the IPFW men's volleyball team will open the home portion of its 1992 schedule Friday and Saturday night this coming weekend when it hosts the Fort Wayne National Bank Pepsi Invitational. Friday night, IPFW will host Penn State at 8:30. USC and Ohio State will play at 6 o'clock. Hello and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Dave Hilbert, IPFW Sports Information Director. With me now is IPFW head men's basketball coach Andy Piazza. Andy, your team won a couple of more conference games this week. Started out with a tough one Thursday over at Northern Kentucky. A team that had played some very tough games, some overtime battles with some of the better teams in the league. It was a close game throughout.
We thought going into Northern Kentucky game, like you said, they beat Kentucky Wesleyan at home 2 weeks prior to that and had a tough overtime loss at Kentucky State. They beat Bellarmine at home easily, and it's a situation where they have very good athletes. David Marsh is one of the better players in the league. He was all-conference last year. But the fact is they were 8-8 going into our game, which was a deceiving record as far as I was concerned. We thought they would be much better than they were. You could say they've lost some close games or overtime games, but they've won some close games and overtime games. We just thought they'd be a better team than what they were record-wise early in the year. But sure enough, they came out ready to play. In fact, with 10 minutes to go in the game, we were down 9 points. Our kids were hanging their heads a little bit, feeling a little bit sorry for themselves because some calls didn't go our way, some charges where baskets were taken away. And I thought this one official was really giving it to our kids pretty good. And I could see our kids getting a little bit frustrated. And having an older veteran team that was going down the tubes on me a little bit, I went after the one guy pretty good and got a technical for it. But it actually worked, the strategy, a little bit. The fact is I got a technical and our kids went on a 16-2 run. They all of a sudden got upset enough with had enough of what that one official was doing to us and just went after Northern Kentucky with a vengeance defensively. Probably the best defense we've played to this point this year because we're on the road, backs to the wall, down 9, 10 minutes to go, everything going Northern Kentucky way. All of a sudden, the whole tide just switched. It was like just because of some efforts on the defensive end by our kids, it just turned, the momentum just turned 180 degrees. And all of a sudden they were reeling backwards, calling timeouts, and got a little frustrated. And they were trying to run some specials on offense, and we shut down everything they did. And to give our kids credit, they showed a lot of patience on the offensive end late in the game, made some crucial free throws down the stretch, and Dwayne Shears just came in and did a great job for us late in the game. In fact, he started 2 games for us last week and had 17 points against Northern Kentucky, came back with 13 against Indianapolis. This is the first time he's had consecutive double-figure games for us.
Okay. Then Saturday you went down to Indianapolis, a team that had a losing record and was at the bottom of the league, but similar to Northern Kentucky. They'd won some games, lost some heartbreakers against some of the top teams, and they jumped out to, I believe, a 22-10 lead.
Right, they were 8th in the conference. Lewis and I think Southern Indiana were behind them. But more importantly, you have to look back in the last 2 weeks. University of Indianapolis, they were ahead of Kentucky Wesleyan by 1. With 1 second to go, there was a foul called an Indianapolis player on an inbounds pass, and Wesleyan makes 2 free throws to win by 1. On Thursday of this, before we played them, they lost in triple overtime to Ashland. In fact, their kid missed 2 free throws at the end of the second overtime to win it. So going into our game, we thought they would be a little bit drained after a triple overtime loss to Ashland. But what happened was Bill Green announced his resignation. Bill Green's the head coach at University of Indianapolis in the Hall of Fame. He was the Marion High School coach for those 3 years, and we won 3 state titles in a row. He's had 6 state titles under his belt. He's a legend in the state of Indiana. He announced his resignation on Friday, effective the end of the season. And so we're his next opponent. And that does, who knows what their kids are going to be like. They're going to be all fired up to send them out a winner. They're going to be relaxed a little bit, or just overly charged up trying to prove a point to the fans and to the people at University of Indianapolis that they are a good basketball team. And like you said, 22-10, we did not call a timeout. We were getting pretty good shots, and we just did our normal substitution rotation, did not show any panic or fear on the coaching staff part. And all of a sudden, we go on 2 big runs, one before the end of the first half, and then to start the second half. And all of a sudden, we're ahead 28 points with 10 minutes to go in the game. We just traded baskets the last 10 minutes. But again, it was our defense that did it. We held them at 37% shooting. In fact, we score a lot of points. We're averaging 92 points a game, I think. We shot 61% Saturday, and we're 2nd, 3rd, or 4th in the nation in field goal percentage. We're scoring a lot of points and shooting the ball awfully well. What gets overlooked is the fact, 2 things. We are 2nd, I think, or 2nd or 1st in the league in rebounding average, +6 a game. And we're 2nd in the league in field goal percentage defense. We're holding opponents, I think, to 42% shooting over a 17-game period now, which gives a lot of credit to our defense and our set defense more than just our pressing game. And when teams are not shooting that well, obviously we're going to get the ball back a lot more, because we're not only are we not allowing them to score a high percentage of the first shots, we are pounding the defensive board, so now we're getting more transition baskets. So a lot of our scoring, a lot of our high percentage shots are coming off of transition, which is directly a result of what we do on the defensive end.
Okay. Now this week, Thursday, we play a couple teams that we faced already. Southern Indiana on Thursday, and then Kentucky Wesleyan on Saturday. Now USI traditionally has been one of the stronger teams in the league. This year they're in last place, and we played them about 3 weeks ago and won fairly easily.
We beat them at their place by 14. It was the biggest win we've had against Southern Indiana points wise. Like Saturday at Indianapolis, going back that for a second, that's the only second time we've ever beaten Indy at Indy, and that's the most points we've ever beaten them by. Southern Indiana swept us twice last year, and so beating them down at their place was a big factor. Beating by 14 points was unheard of at their place. They come to our place. Chris Bowles is a great player. We held him to hold 27 points when we played at their place. Their guards, Jeff Martin is a very good player, but the fact is their perimeter shooting, they don't have as many good outside shooters as they've had in the past, and their depth is very suspect, especially because we press and run the whole time. Their guards get a little tired, and their backup guards are not as good. They start a freshman along with Jeff Martin in the backcourt, so it's a situation, and they bring a freshman off the bench, so they're a little young and inexperienced in the backcourt, and that shows later on in the game. But the front line is as good as anybody's, and Chris Bowles is as good a player as anybody in the conference. We need obviously a big win Thursday against Southern Indiana, and then we have Kentucky Wesleyan coming in here on Saturday, and I know the school's never beaten Kentucky Wesleyan. We didn't play very well at their place. They have 3 losses in the conference. We only have 2, so obviously both games this week, or every game from now on, is very important as far as the league standings is concerned.
Now, is that kind of a mental block for the players, knowing that they've never beaten Wesleyan?
I think somewhat. We used to get hyper for them because they were national champs 2 of the years that I've been here. They've been in the Final Four. They were conference champs. We get a little fired up against them, maybe too much at times. We've always played them very tough, though. I think we lost at home a couple years ago by 2, 2 years before that by 5. At their place, 2 of the last 3 years, we've been ahead at halftime. For whatever reason, poor free throw shooting or some turnovers or whatever the situation is, we've seen it come up a little empty at the end at times. And I don't know if it's a mental block at that point. This year, the coaching staff low-keyed it. We were very low-key going to their place, but then again, our kids were still hyper at the beginning and had 17 turnovers at half caused by ourselves. So Wesleyan played very well, and it wasn't such that our kids have to get over that point. Now that we're nationally ranked every week and we're in first place in the conference, it should be the situation where they're coming to our gym on Saturday. They have to be the ones that they're the ones that should fear us, because they have to catch us. So it's not a situation anymore like in the past. It could have been a mental block because we've always been underneath them in the conference, trying to catch them. We've been underneath them win-loss wise, always trying to catch them to get an NCAA tournament bid. So now it's the other way around. They have to catch us in the conference standings. They might be ranked ahead of us in the nation, but we know that's politics because of their reputation right now. They're the 3rd best team in our conference, yet they're ranked above us in the nation, which doesn't mean a whole lot as far as we're concerned. But it's a nice time for us to prove once and for all how good we are come this Thursday and Saturday.
Now Wesleyan has added a player to their roster since the break. Have you had a chance to either get any information on him, either through film or
I've had
conversation?
information, not film. Carlos Skinner left St. Louis University Division I program, leading rebounder there, I think 3rd or 4th leading rebounder in that conference. Left that semester, and the rules in Division II state if you leave a institution and go to another one, if you get a waiver, you're eligible to participate one time. We couldn't get Carlos Skinner in school even academically. He doesn't even have a high enough grade point average to get admitted to our university. And I don't know, Kentucky Wesleyan, all of a sudden, they lost 2 kids eligibility this semester. They lost to Northern Kentucky. They have 4 losses all of a sudden. Hey, the rich get richer. All of a sudden, they go out and just get themselves another player. It's kind of ridiculous in a way. They're almost like a CBA franchise. When things go wrong there, they're just going to bring in new players every other week. But I don't agree with the rule. I think bringing a kid in a semester should not be allowed to play at one university in the fall and another university in the winter. It's turning it into, it's supposed to be intercollegiate athletic activity, and all of a sudden it's just turning it into a pro franchise down there. So I don't agree with it, and it's not a bitter situation just because they're very good. I just don't think that you should be allowed to bring in a kid and let him play second semester. I think it ruins team chemistry. We've never done it. I don't think I would ever do it, because I would worry. Carlos Skinner comes in, practices 2 days, and plays 19 minutes and starts against St. Joe. How can a coach live with himself with the fact that you have kids who busted their rear ends for you all year, maybe 2 or 3 years, to get that opportunity when they're junior and senior year to play, and all of a sudden they were 7th man, and now they're 8th or 9th man, not getting those minutes they thought they would get. I don't have very good feelings about bringing in transfers like that at semester.
Okay. I know one player you mentioned earlier is Dwayne Shears. He's a senior. He started out with some high expectations, had some great games early, then at least his statistics fell off midway through the season, but he's picked up his game lately. He's back in the starting lineup. Why is that?
I think, I don't know, the situation with Dwayne is, I explained him, we started him against Ashland. Didn't do anything to deserve to start. We did it for rotation purposes against Ashland's press. We want to have certain ball handlers and shooters in there at certain times. And in our system, it's better to have a variety of those at the same time in the court. But he's been through the wars with us in the conference. And it seems like, I don't know what it is, in January, our whole team struggles to find themselves. And by February, all of a sudden, they kick it into gear. Defensively, Dwayne's doing a great job for us defensively now, where he's always been a limitation that way. He's not afraid to take the big shot. He's playing more aggressive. It's a situation where he sees that he has to assert himself, and we talked about, especially to the seniors on our team, a sense of urgency, playing with a sense of urgency. This is it, baby. You only have 10, 12, 14 games left in your season. We're 14-3 now. We have 11 games left in your entire career. You may never play basketball again. You have 11 games to decide whether you're going to play anymore in the NCAA tournament. So we challenge their sense of pride a little bit, talking about the urgency that this is your time. How many more times in your life are you going to get an opportunity to be in this kind of situation? So I think Dwayne listened, actually heard what I said for once, and they decided that now's the time to get going.
Okay. Well, Andy, good luck to the teams again this weekend. And we'll be back in a minute with IPFW head women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelder.
Here's a Channel 6 Sports Report. I'm Alan Bangs. One of the premier men's college volleyball tournaments took place here at IPFW this past weekend. 4 top 20 ranked teams got together for the Fort Wayne National Bank Pepsi Invitational. Friday's action saw USC taking out Ohio State in 3 straight games, and IPFW coming back to win 3 games after Penn State University won the first game. Saturday's championship match pitted 10th-ranked IPFW against 4th-ranked USC. Last season, USC beat IPFW twice. Would it be any different this time? You bet it would. IPFW sent USC back to the West Coast with a loss in 3 straight, 15-7, 15-12, and 16-14. IPFW's Loy Ball was named tournament MVP. This week's rankings find IPFW sitting at the 5th spot. That's the highest any Midwestern team has been ranked that high. As a matter of fact, it's the 2nd highest any team east of California has been ranked. In 1988, Penn State was number 1. This is also the highest a Division II team has ever been ranked. IPFW takes on a team from Guelph, Canada this Friday at the Multi-Purpose Center. This past weekend saw Lisa Miller of the IPFW women's basketball team tie an NCAA record for free throws made in a career. In a Lady Don victory at the University of Indianapolis, Miller hit 8 free throws to tie Valdosta State's Shannon Williams' mark of 630. Miller should also challenge the records for free throws made and attempted in a season. This has been a Channel 6 Sports Report. I'm Alan Bangs.
Hi, welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm here now with head women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelder. Eileen, your team suffered a loss last week, broke a 7-game winning streak, then came back to win another game Saturday. Now Thursday went down to Northern Kentucky, a team that is they're the defending league champs, always a difficult team. What happened in that game?
Well, I would have to say that our greatest difficulty was our field goal percentage. We are first in the nation at 51%. We're very pleased with that. But unfortunately down there we shot 40%, and that did not help us whatsoever. And at the same time we were 76 from the free throw line, and we shot 60% from the free throw line. I guess there are a lot of factors that could enter in as to why we perform that way. They play a very good defensive game. In fact, they rank among the best in the conference as far as field goal percentage defense, and they did hold us down. It's a very physical game, very few free throws taken, and it was a game that we just didn't take care of business and get the job done.
Okay, now, like I said before, Northern Kentucky is the defending league champion. They very seldom lose at home. Their team that IPFW's beaten twice in 15 times, haven't beaten them recently. Do you think, despite IPFW being ranked 20th and second place in the league, and Northern Kentucky being behind them in the standings and unranked, do you think there still might have been, the team might have still felt a little, I don't want to say intimidated, but a little bit, kind of like with the men's team in Kentucky Wesleyan, just how it's a team they struggle to win?
Right, we talked about that prior to our game, that we'd like to change things because the series with Northern Kentucky is very unbalanced, and we'd like to come up with a few more victories. Going down there to play is difficult. They have been a powerhouse in the conference over the years. I think they've won 4 or 5 conference titles. And Nancy Winslow does a great job down there with the girls. She's been there a good while, and they have a good system going. And they, you know, our girls may have been somewhat intimidated going down there, realizing that we haven't fared well with them over the years. But, you know, our attitude going into the game was such that, hey, we want to change things. We want to get in there and, you know, start to beat Northern Kentucky over the next few years. And we're very anxious to play them at our place on February 29th, which is our last home game.
Okay. Well, then the team came back Saturday night and beat Indianapolis, another kind of a surprise team in the league this year, a team that was ranked in the region earlier on. Pam Edwards had a great game, 19 points, 15 rebounds after struggling a little on Thursday. What were some of the keys to that win?
Oh, I would just have to say desire and just being persistent. Our defense, man-to-man defense, half court, worked very well for us. We were very prepared for the offensive patterns that they use. They've been using the same ones over the years, and I was very pleased with how we handled their flex offense and just working through the picks in the way that we did. I would have to say another thing, too, that added to our success certainly would be the rebounding. We out-rebounded them 48-24, I believe, and you would think in the Northern Kentucky game we out-rebounded them about the same margin, but we still didn't come up with the victory, and rebounding is something that we really stress in practice. We play together very well. Going into the game, the girls realized that this was extremely important. Indianapolis had defeated Northern Kentucky at Northern Kentucky, and going into the game, I really did not expect to come out with a victory of 20 points in our favor. But I was very pleased with that, and it was just a very good team effort. And we seemed to be a lot more rested. Fatigue didn't seem to be a factor as it did down in Northern Kentucky.
Okay, now this week you've got Southern Indiana coming up on Thursday, Kentucky Wesleyan on Saturday. Now these are teams that you faced already earlier in the year, won both games fairly handily. Is there anything new about from Southern Indiana from the last time we played them?
I think things are going pretty much the same for them. You know, however, you have to look at the fact that they have a new coach. They have improved a great deal from last year. They have almost an entirely new roster as far as they're bringing in new players and players returning to the program. So you have to look at the fact that now that they've been together for a while, that they have improved, and they're scoring a lot of points. I had a game just the other day at Brescia College. That's 99-92. So they are scoring a lot of points. They're taking a great deal of three-point shot attempts, well above anyone else in the conference. I just looked the other day, and they're attempting 303 three-point shots, and the next one in line is maybe 150 in the conference. So they're really attacking from the perimeter. They have one post player, the last name of Lauken, who does a good job for them inside. But we expect a running game, a lot of pressure defense, and a lot of perimeter shots. And that's very difficult sometimes to defend because, you know, we have our post players in there who are pulled out to the perimeter with a 5'11", 6'1" post who can shoot a three-point shot. And you come out on them too far, and then they're going to drive to the hole on you. So it's a little different to defend, but, you know, we're looking to take care of business on Thursday night with Southern Indiana.
Okay. Then Saturday, I know Kentucky Wesleyan, they've got one of the leading scorers in the league, Octavia Dean, and she had a big night against IPFW back in Owensboro a couple weeks ago. What do you expect from Wesleyan on Saturday?
Oh, fairly the same. I know Octavia Dean's average has increased a little bit, and she did just get her average against us. Their perimeter attack is not as strong as maybe some of the other schools in the conference. They're quite young, and again, because of the fact that they start 2 freshmen, now that they've been together for a few more weeks since we played them last time, we expect to see some different things. However, it's always good to be on your home floor, and that's something we're really looking forward to with both Southern Indiana and Kentucky Wesleyan.
Okay. Now, when you're playing a team for the second time, and for example, in your case, you win both games with these teams fairly handily, do you think that's more of an advantage for the team that lost or the team that won when you come into a second meeting?
I think it's to our advantage when the next game is at your place. Mm-hmm. If we were going there, it might be different. I think there's a different kind of revenge feeling that kids might experience. But it's always good to go defeat someone on the road and then get to come home and play them again. I think it's to our advantage now, me being a first-year coach, having seen the players and coached against them physically, as opposed to just scouting them and watching videotape. I now have a much better idea of what to expect from these teams, and I'm hoping as a coach that I can prepare things even a little bit better. And our new players and their new players, we become acquainted with each other, and second time around, we should be even better prepared. And of course, as I said, being in your home gym is going to help us out.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you worry about any of the players possibly looking past these teams, having beaten them just a couple weeks ago?
I don't think that's something that we really have to worry about, with the Lady Dons. We talk about that all the time. We focus on one game at a time, regardless of who it is. And it doesn't matter who our opponent is. It's a W or it's an L. And right now, every game's important to us in the conference standings. Northern Kentucky is right behind us. We're both at 7-2, but we have one more win in overall wins. So we know that every conference game is equally important. And I stress that all the time, and I'm very confident that no one's overlooking Southern Indiana or Kentucky Wesleyan.
Now, last week, IPFW made it into the top 20 poll, ranked 20th in the country. I know the team was excited to hear about that. What was the team's reaction, and do you think that might put a little bit of pressure on them?
Well, I hesitated in telling the team when we found out because it's far too early to even concern yourself with rankings. It's a good feeling. I told them to pat themselves on the back for a short time and then forget about it because we're just one spot from not being there when you're ranked 20th. And also, in the end, what's really going to matter is where we're ranked in our region as far as making NC2A tournament. And to assure that, right now our goal is to still try to win the conference. And I know someone needs to knock off St. Joe's to do that. They're undefeated, and we plan on doing it. We need someone else to help us out with that. But we're just focusing on staying ranked in the region, the Great Lakes region, and hopefully making the NC2A tournament.
Okay. And now that you've played nine league games, got a chance to play everyone in the league, now that we're halfway through, how do you see the rest of the conference race shaping up? What do you think are the teams? Well, obviously St. Joe's is unbeaten. Some of the teams that you're going to need to beat, some of the teams that could be sleepers, teams like Indianapolis, and just some of the keys to winning the league.
Yeah, you make a good point there because there has been somewhat of a roller coaster effect with some of the teams. You look at a team like Indianapolis who went down and defeated Northern Kentucky at Northern Kentucky, a very difficult thing to do. And then when we played them on Saturday, we expected a little bit more competition and we were able to defeat them by 20 points. I think a lot of things factor into that. It's hard to say, but anyone at this point that's in the top 5, the parity is so close. You look at Bellarmine as well, and you certainly can't put them out of the picture, and we have to play down at Bellarmine, and that's not going to be an easy game for us at all. And then, of course, we have to go over to Ashland and play over there and over at Lewis and Kentucky State. I just think it's far too early to tell because there is so much parity with the top 5 schools that, aside of St. Joe, of course, anyone could finish up 2nd, 3rd, or 4th.
Okay. Now, one thing we can expect to see Thursday night is Lisa Miller setting a new NCAA record. She currently shares the record for most free throws made in a career with 630. What is it about Lisa's game that gets her so many foul shots?
I'd have to say a couple of things. Number one, her ability to take the basketball to the hole. She puts the ball on the floor and moves with it so smoothly, not quick. And you'll see her kind of back and forth and hesitation, dribble, and change of hands, and she'll take it to the hole. And one thing that really helps her in drawing the fouls, at 5'9", she is able to get off the floor quite a bit. And, it's surprising to me. She has a good vertical jump, and she's able to get up there among the post players. And to add to that, she has like a little double pump shot that she does, and it throws the defender off. They go for the block shot or just to defend the shot. She hasn't released the ball yet, and she ends up with a foul. And a lot of times, bring the ball underneath and popping it up, it still goes in. So oftentimes she's at the line in a three-point opportunity.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier that as a team, IPFW is leading the nation in field goal percentage. What is it about the team that enables them to do that? Are you just blessed with great shooters, or is it shot selection, or a little bit of both?
Well, we talked about that the other day, and I had two answers, because I wanted to give the team credit and I wanted to give myself credit. I told them that I'd have to say that our shooting drills has a little bit to do with it, because we do a lot of shooting drills and we do record misses and makes to put a little pressure on them in practice, make sure that they know that their shooting is important. But at the same time, I said maybe it has something to do with the fact that we just have some good shooters on our team. And I think the second answer is probably true. You know, Shelly Sands and Lisa Miller and Pam Edwards all rank in the top 10 in field goal percentage in the conference, and that certainly helps our team percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And I might add, too, that we don't look to take a lot of long-range shots. And perhaps our offense is getting us shots that are just higher percentage as opposed to the long-range perimeter shots, and that may have something to do with it as well.
Okay. Well, Eileen, good luck to the team this weekend. I'd like to remind everyone, IPFW men's and women's teams will be in action Thursday and Saturday in GLVC doubleheaders. Southern Indiana will be coming into town Thursday, Kentucky Wesleyan on Saturday. Both games can be seen live on College Cable Access Channel 6.